मुंबई में आज अभिनेत्री कंगना रनौत ने इन कन्वर्सेशन विद मिस्टिक कार्यक्रम में भाग लिया। इस कार्यक्रम के अंतर्गत कंगना ने स्पिरिचुअल गुरु सदगुरु जग्गी वासुदेव के साथ आध्यात्मिकता से जुड़े कई विषयों पर बात की।
So, I mean, don't you think like we as people, we have stopped to discuss death because shouldn't we be prepared for that day? And when I got to know that you can, I mean, since then I realized maybe you can help me someday. I'm not saying now, but someday. But when the time comes, don't you think I should be ready for it? I should be dressed like this and be like, hey, come, let's go.
What do you mean come? Who has to come with you?
Like whoever comes at that point of time.
So...
Why is it pushed under the carpet? Why don't we talk about death?
It's not under the carpet, it's just that… That's why I said, all of us, we may call ourselves Indian, but our minds largely have become Western because our education is like that, and we… You do one thing in Mumbai, you go and just look at people below their knees. You will see at least 45% of the people are wearing only blue denims, okay? I'm not against it. I lived in it at one time for almost 7 years, 8 years. I wore nothing else but blue denims. It was like a philosophy, not just a clothing. So today that number has increased in a big way. It's American workman's clothes. It's spread around the world. And because workmen wore clothes which were… because of work, it wore out, you know. Our pants would wear out riding motorcycles, it would wear out, we would put a leather patch and this and that. But now people are buying pants which are torn, all right? Paying more for the tear, you also… So, why I'm saying this is, because of this imposition is not small. It's taken a huge footprint in everybody's mind. In this culture, we talked about samadhi. It's a very commonly used word, but unfortunately people think samadhi means it's a gravestone. No, samadhi means sama and di. Sama means equanimous, di means buddhi. If your buddhi or your intellect becomes equanimous, when we say equanimity, we need to understand this. The reason why you're using your intellect so extensively is because you've been trained to discriminate between this and this, between everything and everything. And we create… intellect is the thing which creates division between everything. For us to function physically in this world, I must know here which is me and which is you. I must know here what is a chair and what is a floor. Otherwise I won't know how to operate. So for practical purposes life, essentially for our survival, intellect is of paramount importance, no question about that. But this discriminatory dimension, if I ask you, I will leave her alone, okay? I will ask you, suppose there is a choice between having a sharp intellect and a dull or blunt intellect. What is your choice? You must choose, I'm going to bless you right now. Sharp. So essentially, intellect is a cutting instrument. It's a knife. The sharper it is, the better it is. It cuts everything. Why is cutting important? See, what is the nature of science that we learn today? If you went to a biology class, for sure, if you did not cut a frog or a cockroach, at least a flower you opened up. If you open up this flower, you will understand so many things about the structure of the flower, how it functions, everything. But you will not experience the flower, because by the time you're done with it, it's finished. So if I want to know you, I think I must dissect you. I've come with my scalpel. You think by dissecting you, I will know you? By including you, I will know you. By embracing you, I may know you. But by dissecting you, I will not know you, isn't it? So the only instrument you have is a knife, and with that you try to do everything. I must tell you this. That was a time when I crisscrossed India on my motorcycle. It seems… where is Boman Irani, is he here? They're bringing back Java once again into the country, I believe. Well, I rode probably the SD motorcycles like nobody. I was doing around 55 to 60,000 kilometers every calendar year, just riding across the country without purpose. So at that time, I don't know whether I was in Madhya Pradesh or I was in UP. The whole night I've been riding. Early morning, I come to a place and I want to have some tea and rest for some time. Then, I always fix my motorcycle on the street by myself. But I thought I saw a garage. It was named, handwritten, Mubarak Mechanical Works. I looked at Mubarak Mechanical Works and whole night I've been riding, I didn't want to dirty my hands now. It was a simple thing, I had to just tighten the chain, just take off one link and tighten the chain, that's all I had to do. I thought this guy can do it. So this young, very enthusiastic mechanic came out. And I said, why don't you just take off one link and tighten my motorcycle chain? Then he came out. Then I saw the only two tools that he had in his hand was a chisel and a hammer. Then I said, wait. Then I walked into his little shack of a mechanic shop and looked inside, there was no other tools, only one hammer and one chisel. With this he does everything. Once he works on your machine, nobody else can work on it anymore, it's finished. I said, okay, Mubarak, you don't touch my motorcycle like this. So right now, a whole humanity has become like this. The only instrument they have is a knife. With this knife they cut, it's an efficient tool for cutting. Now you want to stitch your clothes, you stitch with a knife. This is what has happened to the denims. If you do everything with a knife, everything will be in tatters and it's horrible, isn't it? That's all that's happening to us. We are trying to handle everything with one dimension of intelligence that we call as intellect. There are other dimensions of intelligence within us which is completely unexplored. So samadhi means to get your intellect to a state of equanimity so that it does not interfere in your perception of what really is the nature of existence. Right now, the only thing that's interfering in your life is your thought process, isn't it so? If I ask you to sit and meditate right now, you think somebody next to you is going to poke you? No, they are fine. It's your own mind, isn't it? People say they're depressed, people say they're agitated, somebody is manic, somebody is angry, somebody is miserable. No, all this is not happening. The only thing that's happening is your intelligence is turned against you. You're not getting it. You think you're suffering because of something. No. Your intelligence is turned against you and nothing else. You have a knife and you don't know how to handle it. If you have a knife and you don't know how to handle it, you'll cut yourself up. Do you need any assistance from outside to make yourself miserable? You're very efficient, aren't you? If you're alone and you're miserable, obviously you're in bad company. Isn't it? So this is only because, see, we don't give a knife to a child's hand, not because knife is dangerous, simply because a child's hand is not steady. He could hurt himself or hurt somebody. That's what the whole humanity is doing, and they're evolving philosophies after philosophies and talking about life endlessly with one instrument of intelligence called intellect. This is the buddhi. Samadhi means you brought it to an equanimity where it doesn't interfere with your perception of life. So we identify 8 dimensions of samadhi. The first 4 are called savittarka, that means they have qualities of experience. There are different dimensions of experience. The next 4 are called nirvitarka, or there is no experience as such, but there is a certain different dimension of awareness. In this Mahasamadhi is considered the highest because your equanimity got to such a place where there is no distinction between… there is absolutely no identification between what is you and what is your body. Because what you call as my body is a piece of this planet that you gathered, isn't it? Either you realize that today or one day when they bury you, you will get the point anyway. You get it from me or you get it from the maggots, it's up to you. Mystic or maggots is your choice. But you will get it one day. If you get it today, if you genuinely understand, this whole thing that I think is myself is what I have gathered from this planet and put it here like this. What I have in the form of my intellect, every little bit of data is something that you gathered from outside, isn't it? What you gather from outside can be yours, cannot be you. Now there are instances, people, ministers and various other politicians, if you give them a government accommodation, after their term is over, they won't vacate. But there are many of them. See, we only hear about those who don't vacate, but there are many of them, when their term is over, very gracefully they will vacate. They're not news, unfortunately. Actually, we must publish news about them. But nobody talks about all those people who exit their residences quietly without any fuss. We only print news about those idiots who refuse to vacate a government accommodation that's given to them because of the work they were doing. Once the work is over, you must go, isn't it? In a way, this is also… the house that you live in was built from the earth that you dig up. This also is just the same. This is your residence, you built it up. When it's time, if you can gracefully exit without anybody pushing you out, when I say anybody, nobody need to kill you, no disease need to come, no organism need to invade your body, by yourself you gracefully exited because you understand it's time for you, then we say this is Mahasamadhi. That means absolute equanimity has come to you. This is not new in this country. In every generation we have seen hundreds of people. We talked about Nirmalananda. I must tell you about Nirmalananda. I was probably just around 20 or 21 years of age. I'm living wild. I largely… either I'm on a motorcycle or I'm in the jungle, sleeping upon trees and existing myself, surviving in the jungle all by myself. It's one of those days where I've been in the Bilagiri Betta, which is a very fantastic forest, you must see that, it's full of wildlife. I am staying in the jungle for about 4 days and it's rainy season. I usually don't have any arrangement, all I have is motorcycle and gas, that's it. So I survive in the jungle, I know how to survive, but being rainy season, I've become very hungry. Almost for nearly 32 hours I've not eaten anything. And I'm head to toe in mud because it's raining. Wherever I sit down and get up, I become all mud. Then I came up the hill on my motorcycle. There were no restaurants, there were nothing at that time in that place. There was just one temple and the temple was closed. There was no food anywhere. Then I saw this little ashram, 4-acre ashram. Then I rode in. Those are times, even in college, I never got off the motorcycle. Even to first floor, I went on my motorcycle, okay? In our house, going into the house, coming out of the house, we always went on the motorcycle and came out on the motorcycle, steps and everything. So I rode up and there were about 6-7 steps to go to his little hermitage that was there. I rode up that. And I'm explaining this simply to make you understand how wacky the mind is. Always our motorcycle will never have a stand, okay? It'll not have a stand, it'll not have a battery, it'll not have many things which we think is extra weight. We've made it minimal. So I go and park the motorcycle leaning on his cottage like this and I get down. And I'm wearing ankle-length boots full of mud from head to toe. I take off my helmet and look at him. He just looks at me like this and laughs and tears start coming in his eyes. I said, what's wrong with the old man, He's like in his 70s, I'm 21 or so. Then I said, I need to eat, I'm extremely hungry. I was ready to eat him. Then he did something that I could never do. Never in my life I had bowed down to anybody, forget about that, I have never been to a temple. I have not done this even in front of God. My mother says, hold it like this. No, I'll stand like this. I won't do this. I'm confirmed whatever. So this man comes and falls at my feet and my muddy boots, he holds it in his hands and weeps. I just kind of, it was just shook me because this is a 70-year-old man. Then I said, no, what are you doing? I just need to eat, I don't need this. Then he took me inside and he tried to unlace my boots. I said, don't do that, and I put my boots outside and went inside and sat. He baked some bread, he had nothing else, he bakes his own bread, he baked bread and he gave me a jar of honey. So I ate it up and then we started talking. Then whenever I went that way, because I saw that he had nothing much at all, I would take him a bunch of bananas or some apples or whatever fruits that was there, and he always gave me a can of honey to carry back. So this became a quiet… because he was not speaking. He was for 14 years on silence, so he will only write. So I will speak and he will write. It became a relationship over a number of years. Then, this is 96.
It was a big controversy where…
Yes,
where,
yes, that's
where
what I'm saying. In
it was
96.
everywhere on the TV where all his lighting to get Mahasamadhi, and when he found you and you told him the techniques, and when he was about to get there, apparently the government got involved and like, you cannot do that.
In 1996, he announced, I'm 74 years of age right now. I don't want to die as a rogi, I want to die as a yogi. So when the Uttarayana comes, that is after this winter solstice happens, I will leave my body. He announced in the month of April or May, I'm not very sure.
And media
about
got
the
to
time.
know.
No, media came. Then at that time I was there and he told me this and we discussed a few things, and my wife Vijay and my daughter were sitting there. And we went into all kinds of details which we never speak about. So when this was over, he was all very emotional about it, and then we were driving back. Then I saw my wife was weeping. I said, why? She said, I also want to live like that. Then I was joking with her, okay, when are you going to leave? But then she said, no, I'm very serious. I want to go like him. What he was saying was fantastic, and what you were explaining to him, that's how I want to live. I said, why do you want to leave? Because 12 years of marriage, we've been traveling. People have been absolutely wonderful to us everywhere, but there is no home as such, we are always on the move. So just then, we were building a small place to live. I said, just now you're getting a home after 12 years, and the girl was only 7 years of age. I said, why now? She said, right now, everything within me is wonderful. Everything around me is just the way I want it. This is the time I want to live. I don't want to live when things are wrong. I don't want to live when I'm not well or something is not well. I just thought, because she was intense. Either she is at the peak of joy or at the dumps. She doesn't know in between. She would hit the peak or she would go down, but she never knew the in between. And she's not a great practitioner of yoga or something. She was keeping her normal practice, but nothing much. Only thing is she was intense person. There was no moment of dullness with her, she was always intense. So she took up the sadhana so intensely. From the month of August it started, and she started announcing to everybody, in the month of February I will leave. I said, why are you talking about this rubbish? People will make a joke out of you. She said, no, I'm leaving in February. And she started telling the girl. I said, please don't disturb the girl, what will she think, 7-year-old girl? But she brought the girl to that level of understanding. The girl's birthday is in March, this is in January. Then we went to see Nirmalananda for the last time. He wrote a letter to me saying that this is the last letter He was writing every day 100 letters to people all over the world. That's his only communication. So he wrote one letter to me saying this is my last letter, and so we went to see him. He left on January 8th or 10th, I don't remember.
But Sadhguru, there was a lot of resistance for that.
When he said he'll leave on this date, the so-called rationalists moved the court.
Imagine the very day which you're preparing for so many years. And
the rationalists moved the court and posted police in the ashram. This man, I want to tell you how he lived. He has a small Ganapati temple. If he wants to do puja, he will wait for the flowers to fall down from the tree. He will not pluck. He doesn't want to hurt the tree. Only if the flowers fall down, he will take that and worship. Otherwise, he will not do that worship. Some leaf he will take and offer to the god that he believes in. This is the kind of man, they put police there. So when I went there, end of December, with a group of our people, about 100, 200 people, we went there to see him because we knew it's the last part of his life. He was still fit and well. He just cried. He said, see, they put police, 2 constables were sitting there. He said, they put police to watch me. I said, you don't worry, what's your problem? They're just 2 people sitting there, you don't look at their uniform, leave them alone, you just focus on what you have to do. But he was deeply disturbed. He said, how can they put police watching me? Am I a thief? Why are they putting police on me?
I mean, the very thing he should be respected for. And these kind of… I
See,
mean, we
in
need
this
to
culture,
discuss
such
this.
a man would be worshipped. But unfortunately, in today's India, police were
But
put…
Sadhguru, the very fact that he was healthy, why one has to drag to their death is what I don't understand. Like euthanasia, these people, they will, like the ones who were fighting…
has become in such a way that we are in a denial of death. But you must understand this. The only reason why somebody turns spiritual is when they realize they're mortal. If you were immortal, spiritual process would be meaningless. By thinking about God, you will not become spiritual, you will become fanciful, you will become unrealistic. You think there are shortcuts to life by believing in God. But the moment you see that you're mortal, then you naturally want to know what is beyond this body. What is the nature of my existence? These questions are very natural when you understand that you're mortal. So in this culture, we have never hidden mortality. Always death happened in open, you know. When somebody is dying in your house, they'll keep him outside so that everybody can see how he dies. So this is a thing that people will watch, whether he dies gracefully, whether he vacates his residence gracefully or he needs to be pushed out. This was very, very important. Unfortunately, we've lost that. We need to understand this. Whatever we may be doing, doesn't matter what you're doing. You're making movies, I do something else, somebody runs a state, it doesn't matter what we are doing. We are mortal. This is the fundamental reality of our existence. If we forget this one thing, only by forgetting this one thing, we start doing idiotic things on this planet. We have done all these idiotic things simply because today we have to talk about saving rivers, saving mountains, nonsense. This is all utter nonsense to me, saving a river, saving the forest. This is simply because we think we are immortal. We may not be actually thinking so, but we are not conscious of our mortality. If we understood that our stay here is just a brief amount of time, we are just baton carriers from previous generation to the next generation, we are temporary occupants of this planet. If this awareness was there within us every day of our life, we would live completely differently. It's very, very important to be conscious of one's mortality.
So one good thing is that… episode. Okay, so my last question is, Sadhguru, that about our youth. Apparently the statistics say that every 1 hour, actually less than an hour, a young person below 25 is committing suicide. Why is that? I mean, there's a time to die and you can utilize Mahasamadhi for that, but why die before 25?
Suicide is not a pleasant thing, not at all a pleasant thing, because for a human being to make… See, when somebody dies, commits suicide, we're just thinking, okay, he committed suicide. It's not like that. You must look at what psychologically that person goes through to come to that decision. It's the most horrible part of one's life where somewhere they feel so trapped, either by physical situations, financial situations or emotional situations, so absolutely trapped when there is no other way. This is when they take that kind of violent exit which you call as suicide. And if someone tries to kill somebody, that somebody has some defense. They can fight, they can run, they can protect themselves, some resistance is possible. But when you start hurting this one, this is the most helpless life. And it is the worst kind of torture that you can do is to torture this one, because this is an absolutely helpless life with yourself, isn't it? Somebody else has some defenses. So suicide need not be seen in terms of statistics, 1 hour they're dying. Even if one person commits suicide, it's a human concern. It must be a concern for the whole humanity. Why is this happening? You must understand, in this country, in 2017, 7,600 children below 15 years of age have committed suicide. Below 15 years of age, when they must be bursting with life and wanting to live. Below 15 years of age, if they want to commit suicide, what is it? We are somewhere driving ourselves to a certain desperation. One big cause for all this is education system. Unfortunately, it's the schooling system which is killing people. Because if you get 98, you're no good. You know? People will ask you, where is the other 2%? So, apart from this, there are various other things, economic things are there, emotional things are there, various kinds of things for a human being. Essentially, simply because there is no clarity about life, in some way. See, youth means it's life in making. Youth, the most significant aspect of youth is they're full of energy. It's a huge amount of energy. When I say energy, after all, our life is a combination of a certain amount of energy and a certain amount of time, isn't it? Time is ticking away for all of us at the same pace, it's going away. If you sit here, it goes away, if you stand, it goes away, if you run, it goes away, if you don't do anything, it goes away, if you sleep also, it goes away. Time is rolling for all of us. It's only energy we can manage. If you organize our energies in a certain way, what somebody does in 100 years, you could do in 10 years. It is just organization of one's energies. So youth means an exuberant energy. But most of the time, the problem with the youth is they don't have the necessary clarity nor balance. If only, if you could bring 10% more clarity and 10% more balance in their life than the way they are right now, this energy would translate into something fantastic. Because if individual genius has to unfold, the most important thing is there is balance and clarity. So, as a part of this, we are just about on the threshold of this. We are launching a campaign called Youth and Truth in the month of September. We are doing events across the country in various universities. More than that, the idea is to communicate to the youth of this nation and the world that there is a way to bring clarity to your life. You have energy. If you bring clarity and balance, you could be a wonderful life early on. Fantastic you can be. But if you have energy and you don't have the necessary balance and clarity, you could become a disaster right here, both for yourself and the world as such. So we will be a part of doing this, and we expect you and all your friends in the industry and in the media, please be a part of it, because this is one thing we need to do, because as a nation, we are talking about our demographic dividend, where 50% of our population is below 30 years of age, which is a unique situation. And it's a fantastic situation only if we give the necessary clarity and balance and competence to our youth. Otherwise, we can be a major disaster. Such a large youthful population, without necessary clarity, without competence, without balance, they could be the biggest disaster on the planet. But if we organize this well, we could be the greatest miracle in the world. So we are making this effort, and I'm putting one full month of my time traveling across the country, speaking in various universities and causing a buzz about this among the youth, speaking a very youthful language. You will see a very different Sadhguru.
I know, you can…
Because I will dress differently, speak differently, do everything differently with them.
Yeah.
Because I'm very youthful.
Yeah. So my message to all the youth who are going to participate in this, you can ask Sadhguru all kind of questions about monthly cycles, about sex, drugs, all the scandalous questions
They know all those things.
No, they don't. Sadhguru, victim of drug overdose, there are so many, drugs has become a big epidemic, especially in schools and colleges. So guys, I look forward to those conversations and ask exciting questions. Okay,
this is being pitched as Youth and Truth, unplug with Sadhguru. Ask whatever you want.
Ask whatever you want.
Nothing is a taboo.
Yeah. So how much time do we have for questions?
Please.
Guru, I would like to bow down with all my knowledge and all my knowledge. Yeah. So, first of all, I like to bow. I can't tell you how much you mean to me. Very simple. Whenever I go to watch a movie, I'm given a place and I can see the screen in front of me. But when it comes to my life, I don't know where I see things, where I hear things. Every night when I go off to sleep, I don't know where I vanish, where I come back from. Something seeing it, but I can't figure out where I am. I can't understand what's… I feel everything. Whenever my hands get burnt, I understand this feeling, but I don't understand where it happens. Whenever I do my practices, I see… I can't…
You're in Matrix, like all of us.
He said, you're making bad movies. He said that, not me. Because he said, when I sit in the movie, I know it's just a movie. No, you must get lost in the movie, you must think it's life for some time. That's when a movie… He's making comments on you, not me. Okay. So about you not knowing where you are, well, if you're thinking of where in terms of geography, nobody knows where they are in this cosmos. That is the beauty of this. A tiny little blob of a planet in this limitless cosmos is floating around, and here we sit and talk all this stuff. Isn't it fantastic? Isn't it a miracle? Huh? You and me sit here and talk all these things, and we don't know where we are. If you don't know where you are, it's not a problem. It's a geographical issue and there's no issue about it, it's perfectly fine. But you should know what is the nature of your existence. This is very important. If you do not know what is the nature of your existence, you can never ever conduct yourself properly. You may be socially well conducted in a given society, but as a life you will never conduct yourself properly if you do not know the nature of your existence. This is what this entire culture invested in called realization or self-realization, that you must first know the nature of this life, otherwise how will you conduct it? If you do not know the nature of what you're handling, how will you handle it well? How can you handle it well? So, where you are, I don't want to give you a GPS location that works only on this planet. There's no CPS. Cosmic positioning system doesn't exist yet, okay? So, let's focus on knowing what is the nature of my existence. That'll sort out a whole lot of things. Whole time it's 9 o'clock.
Really? Okay, so there was long conversation.
Hello, my question is that we often tend to attract patterns in our life.
Okay, this is the last question we answer. Yes.
So, when we say we have patterns, this is what we said in a certain way. There is a cyclical moment to everything. Our psychological and emotional processes also have become cyclical, largely because of a very strong attachment and involvement with the physical process. And physical process has to be cyclical, only then we exist. Without cyclical movement, there will be no physical existence. Just on the side, if you want some entertainment, you want to know what is the yogic doomsday?
What is the yogi?
Yogic doomsday.
Doomsday, yeah.
In yoga, they calculated some 3,200 years ago, 3,200 years ago, they made a calculation and said, every year, this is a fact, every year the moon is moving away from the planet approximately about 32 millimeters. This is nearly 1.5 inch. The orbit of the moon is going away from the planet. So they made a calculation and said, in 28,000 years, the moon will go so far that its impact on the planet will become minimal. When that happens, the human women will lose their menstrual cycles. Once that happens, human race will just peter out. You don't need a bomb, you don't need a flood, you don't need something. Our ability to reproduce will go away and slowly we quietly peter out. Having said that, our physical existence here is only because of the cycles, various levels of cycles going on within us, isn't it? So if you attach your psychological process too much with your physicality, your psychological process also becomes cyclical, and in this, your karmic process also becomes cyclical, so your life starts running in cycles. You cannot avoid the cycles absolutely. The longest cycle that can run in your life is 12.25 years, because that is the cycle of the sun. The sun's cycles happen in 12.25 years, moon cycle happen in 28 days. Our physical existence is based in the moon cycles, because unless our mothers' bodies were in sync with the cycles of the moon, we wouldn't be born. So our physical existence is a short cycle. But other dimensions of our existence is a longer cycle. Let us say your life became a 6-year cycle. Then you will be still fine, you will be productive, but once in a way you will freak on somebody, do this and that, but you will be still doing things successfully. Let us say your cycle became 3 years. Then you will see you will be still doing reasonably well, but volatile. One dimension of your life will be doing well, whatever you're competent with, the rest will be a mess, it'll be going like this. If it becomes, let's say, 18-month cycle, then you will see every day waking up in the morning is a problem. So many things will happen, nobody need to bother you. Everybody leaves you alone, still you will torture yourself in many, many different ways. Let's say your cycle becomes 9 months. Once you come below 9 months cycle, then you are serious trouble. If it becomes 3 months, you must be in the asylum, you shouldn't be out. I'm sorry, the next movie. If you get less than 3 months, then your physical existence itself is coming to an end, it will not go beyond that. How to watch these cycles? If you want to watch patterns, don't watch patterns in terms of what happens around you. You must learn to observe the system. There are clear-cut cycles happening. It's very important that you do the necessary sadhana to bring this cycle to the longest possible cycle within the human body is 12.25 year cycle. If you keep your cycle at that level, you will see you will be very well balanced, you will be successful with your life, you will handle your life effortlessly, and no matter what happens around you, everything works for you. Simply because you're in sync, because you must understand your existence is not independent of the sources which create you. Here, every moment of your life, everything that you do, the plant life, animal life and your life is all solar powered. Only if you're in sync with that fundamental energy, you will run with certain ease. Once, as you start getting away from that cycle, you will see life becomes more and more of a struggle. If it drops below 3 years, I would say, you will not live a fruitful life, you will live a very fitful life. It's like, in spurts you may do well here and there, but generally life becomes struggle. Instead of trying to settle all these external situations which nobody can settle, okay? You lived long enough to know you cannot settle all the situations in our lives, but if you settle this one thing, bring it to the right kind of cyclical process, you will see everything falls into place for you. Whatever may be happening, whatever the people's intention may be about you, still that will also work out for your well-being, simply because you're in sync with the fundamental nature of your existence here, and that's very important. Thank you very much.
मुंबई से इंडिया टीवी के लिए कैमरामैन प्रमोद के साथ सुमित शर्मा की रिपोर्ट।